During the most critical exams of my life, my girlfriend, Isabella, was supposedly saddled with a $3 million debt and being harassed by a ruthless tycoon. To save her, I got on my knees and begged him, even signing a contract that made me his personal slave. I worked for that monster while simultaneously borrowing money and selling my family home, all to clear her name. But the moment my back was turned, she was in the city's most exclusive VIP lounge, locked in a passionate embrace with my own cousin. When I confronted her in a rage, she just swirled her wine glass and smirked. If you love me, you have to accept all of me. If you can't even handle a small test like this, you don't deserve to be my boyfriend. It turned out there was no debt. The tycoon was just a friend of hers. In the end, their test led to my death, broken and discarded by their cruel game. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the very day I was supposed to sign my life away. Leo, I'm hungry. I want something nice to eat, Isabella whined, stumbling into the apartment. We've been looking at agencies all day. My legs feel like they're going to fall off, my cousin, Julian, added, collapsing onto the sofa dramatically. They both looked utterly exhausted. In my past life, I had been a fool, believing they were genuinely job hunting. I would have rushed into the kitchen to cook for them. It wasn't until my final moments that I learned their outings were just a cover for extravagant dates and secret trips to hotels. The irony was venomous. Isabella had always insisted we wait until marriage, that she wanted to give herself to me on our wedding night. Yet here she was, reeking of another man. This time, I remained on the sofa, scrolling through my phone, motionless. Leo, Isabella's voice sharpened. I said I'm hungry. Are you deaf? She snatched the phone from my hand, her brow furrowed in annoyance. I had a long day at work. I'm tired. You two can cook for yourselves, I said, taking my phone back. My voice was flat, devoid of the warmth she was used to. I could smell it on her, that cloying, intimate scent of two people who had just been together. The smell made my stomach churn. They were spending my money, enjoying themselves all day, and then expected me to come home and serve them. The audacity was breathtaking. What's that supposed to mean? Isabella's temper flared. She planted her hands on her hips. What happened to your promises? You said you'd take care of me forever, that you'd do anything for me. It's only been a few days. Are you tired of me already? I had to physically restrain myself from smashing my fist into her perfectly made-up face. In my previous life, I had honored every single one of those promises. When she claimed she'd lost her job and needed a place to stay, I drove through the night to help her move, catering to her every whim. I would agonize over buying myself an $8 bowl of noodles, but when she wanted imported cherries or $1,000 skincare products, I wouldn't hesitate. Then came the tears, the story of being swindled, of owing $3 million to a club owner named Donovan. I had knelt before him, begging until my forehead was bloody, signing away my future to protect her. I endured daily humiliation at his club, doing the filthiest jobs, becoming a punching bag for anyone in a bad mood. Only at the end did I discover that Isabella and Donovan were in it together. It was all a twisted test of my love. I had been so blind, seeing her as a poor, helpless victim when she was a viper. That's right, I am tired of it, I said, my voice cold as ice. But let me ask you something. Have you been loyal to me? Isabella froze, her jaw slack. A flicker of pure panic crossed her face before she expertly masked it with a wounded, puppy dog expression. The performance was flawless. She could have won an Oscar. Hey, cousin, you're a grown man. How can you bully a girl like that? Julian quickly intervened, changing the subject. Don't you want to get married? You should apologize. Oh, so your heart aches for her now. I narrowed my eyes, the memory of my past life searing through me. I remembered that KTV room vividly. Julian lounging on the sofa while Isabella, draped over him, moved her body against his. Their kiss was so deep, so disgustingly intimate. When I had burst in, furious and betrayed, Julian showed no remorse. He just gave me a smug, triumphant smirk, as if mocking my pathetic inability to please her. Isabella had been even worse. She'd casually pulled on her clothes, lit a cigarette, and poured a glass of wine, looking down at me with utter contempt. I was just testing you, she'd said, her voice dripping with condescension. If you love me, you have to accept all of me. If you can't handle a small test like this, you don't deserve me. A loser like you? I could have men lined up around the globe with a snap of my fingers. I had lunged at them, only to be dragged out by Donovan's bodyguards. He had pressed a lit cigarette into my cheek while Isabella and Julian watched, their faces blank and indifferent. That was the moment I truly understood I had welcomed two wolves into my home. What are you talking about, cousin? Julian denied it quickly. I'm just looking out for you. You're not getting any younger, and the family is putting on the pressure. Coward, I thought, biting back the word. I couldn't let things fall apart just yet. If they left now, how could I make them experience even a fraction of the agony they put me through? So, I swallowed my rage and changed my tone. My business is none of your concern. You're an unemployed bum living in my house, eating my food, and you have the nerve to lecture me. I turned my gaze on him. You've been here for half a year. Have you contributed a single cent? Have you even bought groceries once? If you had, I wouldn't say a word. Julian's face turned bright red, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Leo, that's enough, Isabella interjected, seemingly oblivious that my words were aimed at her as well. She defended Julian with a shamelessness. That was almost impressive. It's hard to find a job right now. He just graduated, and he's your cousin. Why are you being so aggressive? Julian looked at her with such adoration it was nauseating. What a perfect pair of parasites. On the outside, I sighed, feigning despair. Isabella, I'm doing this for us. It's true that jobs are scarce. In fact, I was just laid off today. That's why I'm so stressed. I let that sink in before. Turning to Julian. When you came to stay, you brought tens of thousands from your parents. I was hoping you could lend us some of it to help us through this rough patch. That's not too much to ask, is it? Isabella immediately turned to Julian. Give him the money. I'll pay you back later. She said it with the confidence of a true heiress. Her parents were prominent figures in the city, owners of two publicly listed companies. They were anything but poor. Her relationship with me was nothing more than a game, a way to pass the time before she settled down, with me as the reliable, unsuspecting fool to clean up her messes. The thought made my blood boil. Reluctantly, Julian transferred $20,000 to my account. Just as the notification chimed on my phone, Isabella's rang. Right on schedule. Based on my past life's memories, this was the beginning of Donovan's debt collection drama. I feigned ignorance, ready to play my part. They thought they were the only ones who could act. They were about to find out how wrong they were. As expected, Isabella finished the call with a face as white as a sheet. She trembled as she spoke to me. Leo, it's terrible. That was Donovan. He's demanding I go to his KTV to entertain clients tonight, or he's moving the repayment deadline to this evening. She started to cry, her voice catching. He's a monster, Leo. He's capable of anything. What if he? Cousin, look how pitiful she is. Julian chimed in, right on cue. Just sign the house over to Donovan. I laughed internally. You're so generous with other people's property, you worthless piece of trash. Yes. Give him the deed to the house. Maybe he'll leave me alone tonight, Isabella sobbed. Their eagerness was sickening. This wasn't a test. It was a premeditated execution. But it wasn't time to show my hand yet. I took a deep breath and nodded grimly. All right, I'll get the deed. We'll go see Donovan together and try to reason with him. As I said it, I saw a subtle, triumphant curve on Isabella's lips. I couldn't tell if she thought I had passed her test or if she was just marveling at my stupidity. Julian's smirk, however, was pure schadenfreude. He was practically praying for me to get hit by a car so he could take my place. In my past life, I was the clueless fool, dancing like a puppet on their strings. This time, however, the puppet master had changed. Donovan's KTV was the most opulent and infamous establishment in the city, a place a regular office worker like me could never dream of entering. Yet, Isabella navigated the plush corridors with ease, and the staff treated her with a deference I was too love-struck to notice before. Mr. Donovan, Isabella stammered when we entered his private suite, playing the part of a terrified rabbit, trembling and unable to meet his gaze. Last time, I had immediately pulled her behind me, puffing out my chest and yelling, "If you have a problem, deal with me." My bravery had earned me a brutal beating and Donovan's lasting enmity. This time, I stood by, a silent observer. Instead, it was Julian who stepped forward, puffing his chest out. What kind of man bullies a woman? Is that all you are? It's just a few million. My cousin will cover it. I knew exactly what he was doing, trying to look like a hero for Isabella while pushing all the responsibility onto me. What he didn't know was that Donovan despised loudmouths. All right then, Donovan said, a cruel smirk on his face. He glanced at Julian dismissively before ordering his men to take Isabella to another room. Finally, his cold eyes landed on me. So tell me, how are you going to cover this debt? I only have 20,000 on me, I stated plainly. Donovan's eyes narrowed, the temperature in the room dropping several degrees. His thugs, standing behind him, began to look menacing. Julian, terrified, yelped at me. Cousin, we agreed you'd sell the house. What are you waiting for? If I were you, I would have handed the deed to Mr. Donovan already for Isabella's sake. His shouting only made Donovan's scowl deepen. I sighed dramatically. Do you think my situation is like yours? You have a 2,000 square foot house, fully paid for. My apartment is mortgaged. If Mr. Donovan takes it, he'll also be taking on my 30-year loan. Donovan's face darkened. If you can't produce the money, I'll have to send Isabella to work it off with my clients. But, I stammered, putting on a show of being cornered. I turned to Julian. Why don't you help us out first? Isabella will surely remember your kindness, and you wouldn't want to see her get hurt, would you? You know the kind of degenerates who frequent this place. In my past life, this was the moment I had knelt, and signed the servitude contract. This time, I was handing the pit to Julian. From Donovan's perspective, Julian and I were family. As long as someone took on the debt, the test would be considered a success. Julian hesitated, but a look at where Isabella had been taken was all the motivation he needed. He agreed. Donovan immediately produced a pre-prepared contract and tossed it on the table. Sign it, he said, his voice laced with amusement. Julian picked it up. His eyes widened in horror. An indentured servitude contract. You think one apartment is enough to cover the full amount? Donovan sneered. Why should I sign this? It should be my cousin who. Julian started to yell again, but his sentence was cut short by the sharp crack of Donovan's hand across his face. Who do you think you're yelling at? This is my territory. Donovan snarled. I've been patient with you long enough. Last time, that slap had been for me, for crying and begging too loudly. The reality of the situation finally hit Julian. He scrambled to his knees. Mr. Donovan, please, I'm begging you. Is there any way I don't have to sign this? Donovan just laughed. His bodyguards, taking their cue, descended on Julian, beating him mercilessly. Julian, who had been coddled his whole life, screamed in agony as blood pooled on the floor. Stop. Please, stop, he shrieked. I'll sign anything. He broke quickly. I lowered my head to hide the smile I couldn't suppress. I felt no pity. Julian was only willing to sell his house to impress Isabella, who had likely told him about her wealthy background. Besides, he had taken such pleasure in my suffering in our past life. After the contract was signed, I helped the battered Julian out of the room, only to run directly into Isabella. Julian, what happened to you? She gasped, her eyes filled with genuine concern for him. For us, he sacrificed everything, I said, my voice heavy with fake remorse. He mortgaged his house and even signed that contract. What? Isabella's eyes flashed with anger as she pointed a finger at me. How could you let him do that? What kind of cousin are you? He did it voluntarily, I said with a shrug. And he did it to pay your debt. What does it have to do with me? You're unbelievable, she seethed. Julian, let's go. I'm taking you to the hospital. She grabbed his arm and stormed off. Watching them leave, a slow smile spread across my face. I stuffed my hands in my pockets and went home to get a good night's sleep. Around midnight, a rustling sound woke me. I crept to my bedroom door and peered through the crack. In the living room, illuminated by the faint city lights, Isabella and Julian were wrapped in each other's arms. Julian, you suffered so much today, Isabella whispered, her voice husky and seductive. Let me make it up to you tonight. Julian gulped, his body trembling with anticipation. His eyes burned with desire as he whispered her name, Isabella, before pushing her down onto the sofa. Gently, she purred. You'll wake Leo. Don't worry, Julian chuckled, his hands already exploring. He sleeps like a log. He won't hear a thing. Disgusting animals, I muttered under my breath. They were so consumed by their lust they couldn't even wait for a proper bed. It was a shame, really. I had hoped for a more passionate performance for the hidden camera I'd installed in the living room. The noises from the living room died down after only a few minutes. An hour later, Isabella slipped into our bedroom. She whispered my name a few times, and when I didn't stir, she got into bed and fell asleep. Once I was sure she was out, I carefully took her phone. What I found was a goldmine. It wasn't just suggestive photos. There were explicit videos of her with several other men. I finally understood the true meaning of being a fool. While I was breaking my back working to support her, she was living a secret, sordid life. The urge to wake her up and beat her was immense, but I restrained myself. A fit of anger now would solve nothing. She would still be free to continue her games. Instead, I transferred all the videos and photos to my own phone. Digging deeper, I found chat logs between her and her parents discussing bribes and smuggling operations. I saved those as well. The next morning, as soon as I got out of bed, Isabella started ordering me around. Stop standing there. Go make breakfast for Julian. He needs to get to his new job. I didn't even bother to reply. Did you hear me? She snapped, pointing at me. Julian made a huge sacrifice for us. The least you can do is take care of him. How can you be so cold-hearted? Julian stood beside her, looking like a wronged martyr. I'll say it again, I said, a cold smile on my face. He took on your debt. If anyone should be taking care of him, it's you. It has nothing to do with me. You? Isabella's brow furrowed, her voice rising. What are you implying? That this has nothing to do with you? Aren't we a couple? Were we a couple last night? I shot back. When you and Julian were having fun on the sofa? I had the evidence. It was time to end this charade. Their faces went pale. Panic flashed in their eyes. Cousin Julian stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. Isabella, however, recovered quickly. Tilting her chin up defiantly, she said, So, all that talk about loving me was a lie. You're a hypocrite, Leo. You couldn't even handle one little test. Love means accepting all of me, do you understand? Her words were an exact echo of our past life. I laughed, a genuine, bitter laugh. Accept your infidelity? Your promiscuity? Who do you think you are? Why on earth would I subject myself to that kind of humiliation? Love has principles. Forgiveness has limits. Betrayal deserves nothing. Fine, Leo. We're through, she snarled. Then, a sly, cruel smile spread across her face. But since I'm feeling generous, I'll let you in on a little secret. I'm not poor. In fact, my family is incredibly wealthy. I'm the heiress to the Fu fortune. Anyone who is with me gets to live a life of luxury. She stared at me, waiting. I knew what she expected. For me to have a complete change of heart, to fall to my knees and beg her to take me back, to grovel and apologize, sacrificing my last shred of dignity to become her plaything. She was in for a disappointment. What a wonderful opportunity, I said with a breezy smile. I'm sure Julian will enjoy it. You'll regret this, she hissed. You'll never make it in this city again. She then turned to Julian. Let's go. Okay, he said, barely able to contain his glee. I just shook my head. Poor Julian. You think you've hit the jackpot, but you've just walked into hell. That contract alone will be your ruin. As for Isabella's threats, we would see who had the last laugh. Half an hour later, they made their relationship official on social media. I left a simple comment on their post. Julian, I hope you have a child that's biologically yours. My phone immediately blew up with angry messages from both of them, cursing me out and demanding I delete the comment. I ignored them, cooked myself a nice bowl of noodles with 2 eggs and a chicken leg, and then headed to a coffee shop where I knew I'd find a familiar face. Her name was Victoria Liu. Her family were the biggest rivals of the Fu family, and she and Isabella despised each other. She had once shown up at our door, accusing Isabella of seducing her high school-aged brother. At the time, blinded by love, I defended Isabella, convinced she could do no wrong. I had paid for that mistake with my life. Miss Liu, hello, I said, approaching her table. Huh. Victoria looked up, her eyes widening in surprise before she rolled them dramatically. Well, if it isn't the loyal puppy. How did you know I was here? I used to work part-time at the bakery next door, I said with an awkward smile. I noticed you come here for coffee every day. Oh, she said, taking a sip of her latte. You poor thing. Still treating that snake Isabella like a treasure, working yourself to the bone for her. Her words were harsh, but they were true. I didn't take offense. Instead, I handed her my phone. Take a look at this. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Victoria hesitated for a moment, but curiosity won. She tapped the screen to play the video. Oh my God, her eyes went wide. She grabbed the phone with both hands, accidentally turning up the volume. The unmistakable sounds of their tryst filled the quiet coffee shop. Every head in the place swiveled in our direction. I winced. This heiress was a bit of a loose cannon. I remember the story about her showing up at Isabella's door with a baseball bat and no actual proof. Victoria's face turned scarlet. She fumbled to mute the phone, glancing around sheepishly. No wonder you finally came to your senses. She whispered, leaning in. You got your hands on some explosive evidence. Is there more? I want to see it. I need to see it. Seeing her gossipy expression, I couldn't help but smile. Of course, there's more. And some of it might be exactly what you need to bring down the entire Fu family. At that, her demeanor shifted. All traces of amusement vanished, replaced by a sharp, calculating focus. Are you serious? I nodded. I get that you found out she was cheating, but why go so far as to destroy her family? Why not just break up with her? She asked, her eyes searching mine. Miss Liu, are you kidding me? I replied, spreading my hands. With Isabella's personality, do you really think she would just let me go? You're the one who's kidding. Your whole family is kidding, she retorted, then took another sip of coffee. All right, name your price. I want to study abroad. It had always been my dream to become a designer. But when Isabella came to me with her fabricated debt story, I had given up my spot at a prestigious school to take a boring office job. I took on every part-time gig I could find, desperate to pay off her debt so we could start our perfect life together. Now that I knew the truth, it was time to fight for my own future. Done, Victoria said with a decisive nod. She stood up and extended her hand. Congratulations on your escape. Thank you, I said, shaking it. When I got back to my apartment building, a Porsche was parked out front. Isabella was leaning against it, smoking a cigarette. Leo, she called out, a smug smile on her face. See this car? It's your favorite model. If you get on your knees and beg me to take you back, it's all yours. She still carried herself with that infuriating air of superiority. You're insane, I scoffed. It was obvious she wanted me back, that she missed my devotion, yet she framed it as an act of charity. Don't be ungrateful, Leo. I'm already offering you a way out, she said, her voice rising in frustration. Her theatrics started drawing the attention of passers-by. I'm breaking up with you precisely because I have some self-respect left, I said loudly, for the benefit of our audience. I gave up a scholarship to study abroad and worked 7 jobs a day to help you pay off your debts, only to find out you were faking it all while sleeping with my cousin. A murmur went through the small crowd that had gathered. Wow, that woman is something else. She cheated and lied, and she's still acting so arrogant? Shameless. That poor guy really dodged a bullet. The comments hit their mark. Isabella's face turned a shade of mottled purple. Humiliated, she glared at me one last time before jumping into her sports car and speeding away. Her good days, however, were numbered. That afternoon, the storm broke. First, sordid details of Isabella's private life were leaked online. Moments later, reports surfaced about her parents' bribery, tax evasion, and illegal dumping from their factories. The story exploded, hitting the top of every news site within minutes. Companies began severing ties with the Fu family, and the authorities swiftly moved in, taking her parents into custody for investigation. The Fu empire was on the verge of collapse. I couldn't stop smiling. So, you like to threaten me, Isabella? Did you really think I was the same lovesick fool from our last life? Did you think I had no teeth? The moment I stopped loving you, you became nothing. That evening, Victoria asked me to meet her at a bar. As I walked in, I saw a familiar figure in a waiter's uniform, Julian. His face was bruised and swollen, and he walked with a pronounced limp, yet he tried to maintain a facade of composure when he saw me. Cousin, you came looking for me, didn't you? He asked. I remained silent. I'm very happy with Isabella, he continued, puffing out his chest. And working here is great. I bet you're jealous. Of course, if you want to take me home, you'll have to pay the penalty fee on that contract first. Why would I want to take you home? I asked with a derisive laugh. If you're so happy and fulfilled, you should stay here. Forever, if you can. His pathetic attempt at bravado was a mirror image of Isabella's. You're not here to get me? The realization dawned on him. Of course not. I started to walk past him, but a group of large, menacing men approached. Julian, you little pretty boy, slacking off again, one of them growled. Did you forget last night's lesson? Maybe you need another one. I can find a dozen guys to keep you company tonight. The way they looked at him, one of them licking his lips, sent a shiver down my spine. I could only imagine what horrors he had endured. Julian began to tremble violently. He turned and dropped to his knees, grabbing my leg. Cousin, save me. I don't want to work for Donovan anymore. I don't want to be with Isabella. She's a liar. She just dumped me here and disappeared. This place is hell. Tears streamed down his face. My dear cousin, I said, looking down at him with a serene smile. No matter how hard it is, this is the path you chose. I respect your decision. The sense of vindication was intoxicating. I was wrong, cousin. I'm so sorry. It was Isabella. She seduced me. She kept walking around in her nightgown in front of me, he sobbed. I'll never do it again. I'll be your slave. I'll do anything. Please, Just get me out of here. Sorry, I said, my smile unwavering. I can't afford the penalty on that contract. You're on your own. I then turned to the thugs. What kind of incompetent staff are you hiring here? This is pathetic. My harsh tone made Julian's face go ashen. Our apologies, sir, one of the men said, assuming I was an important client. We'll take care of him right now. They grabbed Julian and started dragging him away. Cousin, he screamed, his eyes filled with absolute despair. I watched without a flicker of emotion. I was only returning what was given to me. I never would have guessed you had such a ruthless side, Victoria said, applauding softly as she walked up to me. Even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered, I replied with a small smile. I like it, she said, a playful glint in her eye. She led me to a private booth and handed me a file. Inside was an admission letter to a prestigious design university abroad. Is there anything else you want? Just ask, she said generously, raising her glass. I don't want to see Donovan ever again, I said. Isabella was the mastermind, but Julian and Donovan were her willing accomplices. Donovan, in particular, had broken my limbs and urinated on me as I lay dying. The memory of his triumphant laughter still made me tremble, even in this new life. Consider it done, Victoria said without a moment's hesitation. We drank, sang off-key karaoke, and laughed. It was a release. Late that night, she fell asleep, her head resting on my shoulder. I called a cab and took her home, not wanting her powerful family to have any reason to come after me. When her parents saw me escorting their drunk daughter home safely, they praised my character and tried to offer me a gift, which I politely declined. I wanted no part in the complicated world of the super-rich. The next morning, I was woken up by a call from Victoria. Hey, you escaped, ruthless, formerly cuckolded turtle. Turn on the news. She hung up before I could reply. I chuckled and checked the headlines. Donovan had been arrested. He was caught in the middle of a violent assault the previous night. The victim, identified only as a Mr. Sue, did not survive. Mr. Sue? Could it be Julian? The thought crossed my mind, but I didn't dwell on it. It was time to pack and prepare for my new life. The apartment was still filled with Isabella's things, ghosts of a past I was desperate to escape. For a time, I had been happy. I had loved the way she would playfully call me her husband, the way she would curl up against me like a kitten. I had believed it was all worth it. But it was all an act, a devastatingly effective lie. It's finally over, I breathed, throwing away everything that reminded me of her. On the day I was leaving, pulling my suitcase behind me, she appeared. Her hair was a matted mess, her face was dirty, and her clothes were torn. Several of her fingers were missing. Without her family's protection, she had become prey for all the people she had wronged. Leo, she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. I miss you so much. She ran towards me, her arms open, but I stepped back. Don't. I can't stomach it, I said coldly. The next second, she was on her knees. I'm sorry, Leo, she sobbed, slapping her own face, leaving red welts on her cheeks. I shouldn't have been so selfish. I shouldn't have tested you like that. It was all my fault. Yes, it was, I agreed calmly. I really do love you, she cried. I don't know why I am the way I am. I always wanted to go out and play, but I didn't want to lose you either. Can you please just take me in? I'll cook and clean for you. I'll do anything you ask. No, I said, my voice flat. You don't love me. You're just scared and alone. You're afraid of starving. We're finished. Don't bother me again. She had destroyed me in our last life. There would be no forgiveness in this one. Her suffering was deserved. But you used to love me so much, she wailed, clinging to my pant leg. I have nowhere else to go. I haven't eaten in days. Those bastards, they beat me. You're the only one who can help me. Her pleas were like the buzzing of a fly. Get off me. I snapped, kicking her away. Suddenly, her crying stopped. A strange, chilling smile crossed her face. God shouldn't have let you live a second time. My blood ran cold. I froze. How could she possibly know I was reborn? Unless... Watch out, a familiar voice screamed. Someone shoved me hard. I stumbled and turned to see Victoria, blood pouring from a gash on her right arm. In front of her stood Isabella, holding a bloody fruit knife, her expression wild and deranged. I can't believe you got together with her, Isabella hissed, her laughter unhinged. You're clever, using someone else to do your dirty work. But if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. She lunged at me again. I grabbed a loose rock from the pavement and threw it with all my might. It hit her square in the forehead, and she crumpled to the ground, unconscious. I'm taking you to the hospital, I said, scooping Victoria into my arms and running towards the nearest clinic. You're carrying me, she stammered, her face turning a deep shade of crimson. At the hospital, while the doctor was stitching her up, I called the police. When I returned to her room, she was already trying to shoo me away. Go to the airport. You can still make your flight. But it's just a scratch, don't worry about it, she said with a bright, reassuring smile. Go, live your dream, and design some beautiful clothes for me when you become famous. Okay, I nodded. Life abroad was a welcome change. I adapted quickly, made friends, and poured all my energy into my passion. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive. One day, I was scrolling through news from back home and saw an article detailing the fall of the Fu family. It mentioned Isabella. After her arrest, she had been disruptive during her medical evaluation, eventually making a run for it. She tripped on a staircase, fell, and died. The comments section was brutal. Good riddance. People like her are a waste of air. The world is a better place without her. No one mourned her. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was campus security, telling me an international package had arrived for me at the front gate. Confused, I went to check. Standing at the gate, her back to me, was a familiar figure. It was Victoria. She had her hair in a high ponytail, and as she turned, the sunlight caught the sweet smile on her face. She waved enthusiastically. Don't tell me you're the international package, I said, walking up to her with a grin. Yep, she said, pouting playfully. Are you not happy to see me after I came all this way? As she spoke, I noticed a long, thin scar on her forearm. You said it was just a scratch, I said, my voice softening. That scar must be 15 centimeters long. The memory of that day, of her pushing me out of the way, was still vivid. Without her, I wouldn't be here. I'm not dead, am I? So it was a scratch, she said, circling me. What's this? Are you concerned about me? Has my hero been dating anyone? I shook my head. A hopeful light danced in her eyes. Then, want to try dating me? I looked at her bright smile and the scar she wore because of me, and my own smile grew wider. Yes,